There is something quietly fascinating about a pair of shoes. They carry us through our days, hold our weight, and often say more about us than we realize. But what if those shoes belonged to one of the most recognized women in the world? What if each pair had its own story, its own rules, and even its own secrets? For Queen Elizabeth II, shoes were never just simple items. They were carefully chosen, deeply personal, and at times surprisingly unusual. Some were worn in ways that might seem strange. Others followed traditions that few people ever knew about. And a few details, once revealed, changed how people saw royal life entirely. You may be surprised to learn that the Queen never wore brand new shoes in public, or that her shoes were often broken in by someone else first, or even that her choice of heel height carried quiet meaning. These small details open a window into a world that feels both grand and very human at the same time. As we explore these stories, you may find yourself thinking differently about something as simple as footwear. And if you enjoy discovering these hidden pieces of history, you might consider subscribing to the channel, sharing your thoughts in the comments, or even telling us about a memory that this story brings back for you. Let us begin gently, with a detail that seems simple, yet reveals much more beneath the surface. It is said that Queen Elizabeth II never liked discomfort. That may sound obvious, but in royal life, comfort is not always the first priority. Public appearances, long ceremonies, and standing for hours were part of her daily duties. So her shoes had to serve a very specific purpose. They had to look proper, match her outfit, and most importantly, feel completely comfortable. Because of this, the Queen had a quiet but unusual practice. Before she wore a new pair of shoes, someone else would wear them first. This person, often a trusted dresser, would walk in them to soften the leather and shape them gently. By the time the Queen stepped into them, they already felt familiar. It raises an interesting question. Does true elegance sometimes depend on unseen help? As time went on, this small habit became part of royal routine. According to royal dressers, the process was done carefully, always with clean tights and only inside safe, controlled spaces. Nothing was left to chance. Now consider the style of her shoes. If you look at photographs from different decades, you may notice something consistent. The Queen rarely changed the design. She favoured simple black leather shoes with a low, sturdy heel. This was not by accident. Stability mattered. She often walked on grass, gravel, and uneven surfaces. A higher heel might have looked fashionable, but it would not have been practical. In fact, her shoes were often made by the same company for many years. One of the most trusted names was Anello and Davide, a British shoemaker known for quality and tradition. Their work was precise and their designs stayed consistent. This created a sense of continuity. Even as the world changed, her appearance remained steady. Some people may wonder, why not change styles more often? Why not follow fashion trends? But for the Queen, consistency was part of her identity. It gave people a sense of reliability. In a world that often moved quickly, she remained steady and recognizable. At this point, you might be thinking about your own habits. Do you prefer comfort over style, or do you try to balance both? It is interesting how such a simple choice can reflect deeper values. There is also something else hidden in her shoes, something less visible, but equally important. The soles were often designed to reduce noise. When she walked into a room, the sound was soft, almost quiet. This may seem like a small detail, but in formal settings, it made a difference. It allowed her presence to feel calm rather than sudden. And then there is the matter of colour. While her outfits were often bright and easy to spot in a crowd, her shoes remained mostly dark and understated. This contrast was intentional. Her clothing helped people see her from a distance, while her shoes stayed neutral, grounding the look. It was a careful balance between visibility and simplicity. After spending some time with these details, one begins to see that nothing was random. Every choice had a reason. Every pair of shoes carried both function and meaning. If you are enjoying this journey into royal life, feel free to share your thoughts below. Many viewers enjoy discussing these small but meaningful details, and your perspective could add something valuable to the conversation. Now let us move a little deeper into this story, where things become even more intriguing. Over the years, the Queen reportedly owned many pairs of nearly identical shoes. At first, this might seem unusual. Why have so many of the same style? But when you consider her schedule, it begins to make sense. She needed reliability. If one pair became worn, another could replace it instantly without changing her appearance. This also meant that her public image remained consistent across decades. Photographs from different years often show a similar silhouette. It created a sense of timelessness, almost as if she existed outside of fashion trends. Yet behind this simplicity was careful planning. Each pair was crafted with attention to detail. The heel height was usually around 2 inches, offering both support and elegance. The leather was soft but durable. The fit was exact. And still, one question lingers. How does something so ordinary become so important? Perhaps the answer lies not in the shoes themselves, but in the life they supported. As we continue, the story of these shoes begins to reveal something deeper. They were not only about comfort or appearance, they also reflected discipline, routine, and a quiet sense of control in a life that was always in the public eye. Over many years, royal watchers noticed that the Queen's shoes were always in excellent condition. They were never scuffed, never worn down in a careless way. This was not by chance. Each pair was carefully maintained, cleaned, and stored with great care. After being worn, they were often polished and prepared for future use. It makes one wonder how much effort goes into maintaining such a simple object when the world is always watching. There is also an interesting detail about how long she kept her shoes. Unlike many people who replace their footwear often, the Queen sometimes wore the same style for many years. Some reports suggest that she preferred to repair rather than replace. Soles could be renewed, heels adjusted, and leather restored. This careful approach reflects a mindset shaped by earlier times, especially during and after World War II, when resources were limited and waste was discouraged. This brings us to a quiet but meaningful contrast. While the royal image may appear luxurious, many of the Queen's habits were shaped by practicality. She lived through difficult periods in history, and those experiences stayed with her. Even in later years, when she could have chosen endless variety, she remained steady in her choices. Now, think about the role her shoes played during long public events. The Queen often stood for hours, greeting people, attending ceremonies, and walking through large crowds. Her footwear had to support her without causing pain. According to royal insiders, the fit of each shoe was extremely precise. Measurements were exact, and adjustments were made when needed. There was no room for discomfort. At this point, you may reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever worn shoes that looked good but felt uncomfortable? And how long could you stand in them? These simple questions help us understand her choices in a very human way. There is also something quietly symbolic about her preference for low heels. In many ways, it showed balance. Not too high, not too flat. Just enough to maintain posture and presence without risk. This balance can be seen in many aspects of her life, where careful decisions often replaced bold or dramatic changes. If you find these small insights meaningful, you might consider subscribing and joining others who enjoy exploring history in this calm and thoughtful way. You are also welcome to share your thoughts or memories. Many viewers recall moments when they first saw the Queen in person or on television, and those memories add a personal layer to these stories. As the years passed, another detail began to emerge. The Queen's shoes were often customized in subtle ways. For example, the soles sometimes included materials that improved grip. This was especially important when walking on polished floors or outdoor surfaces. A slip, even a small one, could have serious consequences in a public setting. In addition, the shoes were made to allow ease of movement. She needed to step in and out of cars, walk up steps, and move across different types of ground. Every small design choice supported these daily actions. It was not only about standing still with grace, but also about moving smoothly and safely. There is also a quiet story about how her shoes were transported. When she travelled, her footwear was packed carefully, often with protective coverings to prevent damage. Each pair had its place, organised and ready for use. This level of care ensured that nothing was left to chance, even during busy schedules. Now let us pause for a moment and consider something more personal. Shoes often carry memories. They walk through important moments in our lives. In the Queen's case, her shoes were present at historic events, state visits, and personal milestones. They stood on palace floors, walked through gardens, and stepped into countless public spaces. And yet, they remained simple. This simplicity may be one of the most surprising aspects of all. In a world filled with change, her choices remained steady. According to royal biographers, this consistency was not accidental. It was part of a larger approach to duty and identity. By keeping certain things unchanged, she allowed people to focus on her role rather than her appearance. Still, there is a quiet question that stays with us. Did she ever wish to try something different? Did she ever look at more modern styles and feel curious? We may never know for certain, but her public choices remained clear and consistent. Another interesting detail comes from those who worked closely with her. They often described her as very aware of how she felt in her shoes. If something was even slightly uncomfortable, it was addressed quickly. Adjustments were made, or the pair was set aside. This shows a level of attention that many people may overlook in their own daily lives. And then there is the matter of weather. The Queen's shoes had to work in all conditions. Rain, cold, and even heat were part of her schedule. Materials were chosen carefully to handle these changes. The leather needed to remain strong, yet flexible. The soles needed to hold firm, even on wet ground. At this stage, the story becomes more than just about shoes. It becomes a reflection of a life lived with structure, care, and quiet precision. Every detail, no matter how small, had its place. As we move forward, the facts will become even more surprising. Some details may change how you see royal life entirely, while others may feel quietly familiar. As we reach the final part of this story, the meaning behind these simple shoes becomes clearer, and perhaps more touching than expected. What first appeared as small, uncurious habits now begins to feel like a quiet reflection of a lifetime of duty. There is one detail that many people find especially surprising. The Queen's shoes were not meant to draw attention. In fact, they were designed to almost disappear. While her coats were often bright, helping crowds see her from far away, her shoes stayed modest and dark. This created a sense of balance. The focus remained on her presence, her role, and her connection with people, rather than on changing fashion. It is a gentle reminder that sometimes true elegance is not about standing out in every way, but about knowing when to remain simple. Another detail adds to this picture. Over time, the Queen developed a strong understanding of what worked best for her. She did not often experiment once she found the right design. According to royal experts, this saved time and reduced stress. In a life filled with constant decisions, removing even one small choice could bring a sense of calm. Think about that for a moment. How many decisions do we make each day? And how much easier might life feel if some of those choices were already settled? There is also something deeply human in the way her shoes were cared for. They were not treated as disposable items. Instead, they were maintained, repaired, and respected. This approach reflects values from an earlier generation, where quality mattered more than quantity, and where items were kept for as long as they served their purpose well. In today's fast-moving world, this idea may feel almost unusual, yet it carries a quiet wisdom. If these reflections speak to you, you might wish to share your thoughts in the comments. Some viewers find that these stories bring back memories of their own routines or of people who valued similar habits. And if you would like to continue exploring such calm and thoughtful histories, you are always welcome to subscribe. Now, let us consider one of the more meaningful aspects of all. The Queen wore her shoes during moments of great importance. They were present during state visits, public celebrations, and also during times of sorrow. Through all these events, they remained steady, just as she did. In 1953, during her coronation, her shoes were specially made to match the importance of the occasion. Though hidden beneath her long robes, they were crafted with great care. Even in moments when they could not be seen, they still mattered. This quiet attention to detail shows how deeply tradition shaped her life. As the decades passed, her shoes continued to support her through thousands of engagements. Each step carried responsibility. Each appearance required strength, patience, and calm presence. And through it all, her footwear remained reliable and unchanged. There is also a gentle story shared by those who observed her closely. They noticed that her walk was always careful, measured, and steady. This was not only a matter of posture, but also of awareness. She understood the importance of each movement. Her shoes, designed for stability, helped her maintain that graceful balance. And yet, behind all this care and routine, there is a quiet question that stays with us. Did these shoes ever feel like a burden? Or did they become a source of comfort, a familiar part of a life that was often demanding? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between. As we reflect on these 15 strange and fascinating facts, something deeper begins to emerge. These were not just stories about shoes. They were stories about discipline, consistency, and quiet strength. They show how even the smallest details can carry meaning when they are part of a larger life of service. In her later years, as her public appearances became fewer, the image of her steady walk remained in people's minds. It was familiar, reassuring, and deeply human. The same simple shoes, the same careful steps, the same calm presence. And so, we are left with a gentle thought. In a world that often celebrates change, speed, and constant variety, there is something comforting about steadiness, about knowing what works and staying true to it, about finding strength not in bold display, but in quiet reliability. The shoes of Queen Elizabeth II may seem like a small detail, easy to overlook. But when we look closely, they tell a much larger story. A story of a woman who walked through history with grace, one careful step at a time. And perhaps in our own lives, there is something to learn from that.